Hey, yeah, it's been a while. As you have more than likely, as you have more than likely already noticed, it has been like about a month or two since I uploaded my last storytime vid having to do with this. Um, which I did say would take a while, but I didn't think it would take this long. But the reason, because I already made the third part to the story, but I wanted to take a different approach this time. I completely scrapped that, and this video that you're seeing right now is the one that I just made like a couple days ago. The approach I wanted to take on this is not only it being my story, but also being like a lesson, I guess. Like for those who don't know these certain situations or things, facts, just anything having to do with a relationship, which I know I have no room to talk because I'm for sure not ready to be in a relationship. That's why it ended, but I still have some advice that I feel would be pretty crucial for some people. So, yeah, my approach is talking about it while giving some advice here and there on what is good, like from my experience only. I'm not anything that I say is advice or anything that I give as advice. I'm not saying it's factual. I'm only saying it like I'm only speaking from my experience. So where should I start is the good question, because I even struggled to find an area where I could start a story like this off. Even my last one. So I guess we can start it like on I guess a month before the end of last summer. Like the summer after our junior year, the last month of that summer, and the beginning of school all the way to October, which I believe October 8th is when Kara broke up with me. So during that summer, as I mentioned in my previous video, thus far our most severe conflict had been that time when we got into a heated conflict during a phone call. I was on the road with my mom doing whatever, I think just shopping or whatever, and I went to her place, and you know. So sometime after that, like, that wasn't the first issue that we had with each other, because I'd say during that argument slash conflict, there is a whole lot of you do this or you do that, or no, you do this and no, you do that, and you need to start doing this, or I need to start doing this, or, you know, stuff of that nature. Of course, that conflict itself we settled, but there is a whole lot more to fix, evidently. See, I mean, throughout the relationship, even throughout the golden days, which is like the first 3 or 4 months of me and Kara dating, I refer to as the golden days of our relationship, when we were the most happy, at least as far as I knew. But we didn't really have any problems around that time. But yeah, as the summer went on and when the summer started coming to a close, some things were starting to get a little bit out of hand. Out of hand, as in, I started to become, or I started to feel secluded. As in, I started to feel like I wasn't a priority. Like, I don't have to be the priority. When it comes to dating people, and here's a little bit of advice that is my opinion, but I feel like it could help with, at least most people out there, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people would agree with me, that it's not okay to prioritize one person over the other. Say your best friend over your girlfriend or boyfriend, or vice versa. You prioritize them both at the respective amount that you can, like to your capability. And there is a time and place for you to prioritize one of them more than the other, but not like permanently, if you get what I'm saying. I didn't always want to prioritize Kara over, say, my closest friend Wyatt, but I did. Which I kind of regret doing. Even though he was okay with it, and a lot of my other friends were okay with it, that I did that too, because they understood what I was going through, and I didn't think much of it at the time. But there were quite a few moments, not a whole lot, but there were quite a few moments where I blatantly prioritized her over them. And that's not good. Of course, like I said, there are times where you can prioritize one over the other. But you shouldn't do it all the time, and you shouldn't look at it like that. Again, in my opinion, you shouldn't look at it like that. And part of that advice, or most of it actually, is actually advice that Kara herself gave to me. Because she even told me herself, she doesn't want me to prioritize her more than anyone else generally. Just at certain times, she would like me to prioritize her because she does the same. Not literally because she does the same, like not for that reasoning, but it makes sense to do. So, but I'm getting a little bit off track here. I started to feel like, again, during like the last month of the summer, like that I wasn't being prioritized enough. And what I mean by that is she wasn't calling me as much. She wasn't giving me not necessarily the same kind of attention, because, of course, as the relationship goes on with your partner, the attitude and the feel and just, the personalities that you are most familiar and comfortable with when it comes to one another are going to change over time. That's a given. But this was different. And it didn't help that, okay, she's most likely watching this. Even if she wasn't, I still have to watch what I say. But her cousin came down here to Florida, and she started living with Kara and her family. And because of that, she started to, want to spend time with her cousin more, and, because it's been years since they've seen each other. That's all right. I wasn't opposed to that. I'm all for that. But at the same time, I thought there were plenty of moments when we were in person, and even when she was home and I was home, and we could have called one another, and she would pay no mind. Now, of course, there were plenty of times, actually, especially during like the last few months of the relationship, where if we would call, because most of the time we would call on Discord, that I would either fall asleep or I would be playing video games. which I used to play video games a lot during our calls back then, and she did get used she used to get annoyed that I would sometimes put my attention on the video game more than I would her for too long. And I quickly, adjusted to that at least as much as I could. But there were times where she'd be cooking food with her cousin, and I would sometimes fall asleep when she would call me, and that's mainly because I was just always exhausted or tired, but I at least wanted to be in a call with her. But, every now and then she would just hang up or say, "You're falling asleep, there's no use of you being in the call." Okay, that's I get that rationally, but also ouch. like a couple times when she mentioned that to me, it hurt a little bit, even though I rationally understood that. It kind of hit there a little bit, and also that's the difference between knowing something rationally and feeling something emotionally. You could know something factual and still feel a completely different way about it. Say, for example, and I'm totally not using this example from Good Will Hunting, but imagine you were being abused like most of your childhood, and you grew up knowing that you being abused was bad. However, you feel that you deserved it because you were bad. That you were abused and you were treated horribly because you were a bad kid. That's just an example, an extreme one, sort of, but you get the picture. I knew that she had her reasons to want to prioritize other things, and it was a lot more than just her cousin. She had dance to worry about. School was also of concern to her. It has always been, because, she does value education, probably a lot more than I do. I value education, just, not as much as she does. Probably is not as much as I should. But anyway, so her being absent a lot more than she already was, it made me feel alone. And I did have other people to rely on. Again, I had my close friend Wyatt, I had other friends, I had my brother, I had my mom, which my brother and my mom didn't really contribute too much, mainly because they can't. Okay, me personally, and this is just me, this is no advice whatsoever, but me personally, when I've been living with my mom and my brother, literally for all my life. Over time, started to get a little bit desensitized to their affection, I guess you could say. In a sense where it was it's effective, or it can be, but not as much as it used to be, or not as much as it usually is for other people who show me any type of affection. The point is, I did have other people that, they were there for me. I didn't only have Kara, but it was painful, because I felt like more and more something was up. Back to when I brought up things started to get out of hand. I got off topic for a little bit. I get that from my mom, I'm sorry. Every night when we would call, because most of the time we would call every night, and fall asleep with each other, essentially. through FaceTime. Half the time I would hang up, or my phone would die and I would just hang up anyway. And the other half of the time I would keep my phone on, but yeah, I would start to more and more bring up topics that usually would be fine, but not always when when you're getting ready to go to bed. Maybe it's not the best time to bring those things up. But here's the thing. Due to me feeling like I rarely had any opportunity, like almost ever, I always saw that as my opportunity, because that was the given time where we would be able to spend time with one another, like one-on-one, was when we would spend time on the phone while we go to bed. There's a cut right there because I said something that I'm gonna cut out because it was just stupid. But yeah, there's gonna be quite a bit of cutting in this video. But yeah, it started getting too consistent, and she brought it up to me like multiple times. The first time I said I was sorry. The second time I said I was sorry again. And the next few times I tried to tell her why I was doing this, and again, I knew that she was busy. I knew that she had other stuff that she was doing, and that that she was prioritizing more than our relationship, which again, at the time, it was fine. It was understandable. And I rationally knew that. But at the same time, I felt like she could have at least, saved some time for me. Time that wasn't just us, getting on a call every night to just fall asleep with each other, because around that time there's barely any room for conversation. Even on weekends, she would have dance sometimes early in the morning, or she would have other stuff that she would have to do early in the morning if it wasn't school, so she would have to go to bed early or at a specific time, and it sucked. So I barely had any time to talk, or to get my feelings out, or to let her know straight up. It was either we could talk at school, but most of the time that was really difficult to do because we would only be able to see each other during lunch, and I don't want to rid her of having a good having a good time with her other friends and associates during lunch. That was also the conflict that I had internally. I wanted to tell her that I would like some time to, talk to you, spend time, and all of that. And every time, like every now and then, yeah, we would. Like, she would call me like in the middle of the day, like if I got home from school and she got home and she didn't have dance after school or whatever, and and she'd be cooking food or she'd be hanging out in her room. We would call and we would talk, and it wasn't always just constant busyness, but also she, like, every time she would call on Discord, we would watch videos together every now and then. Then it started to become a too much of a consistent thing, to where like we would watch Markiplier like a lot together on Discord, and like half the time I was enjoying it. We were both laughing, enjoying ourselves, and the other half, like, of me was like, it's starting to become too much of a normal thing. I'm not engaging with you that much. I'm not able to talk to you. Now, that's not the only thing, that's not the only problem that I was contributing to. It was also the fact that I would make promises when it came to certain things that I do or used to do, but I still kind of have the habit of doing, that I would like stop them. I promised that I would cease to do them as much, or I wouldn't do this, or I wouldn't do that. And she felt like, and I completely understand from her perspective, she felt like I wasn't keeping my promises. Now, here's the thing though. I actually feel like I was. I was keeping my promises. I will try to stop, bringing up these things late at night during our, late night calls so that no conflicts arise. Because that was the problem, that things that I would bring up would cause a huge conversation, or it would cause an argument, which was bad on her part because she has trouble sleeping already. So any amount of stress adding to that difficulty already would, it's not good. So I told her that I would try less and less to do that, and I was, but at a very slow pace. A slow pace that seems as though, to an outside perspective, that I'm not trying at all, or that no progress is being made whatsoever. And okay, two things. Either she understood that I was progressing but slowly, and she was already going through stress and other stuff on her own, so she didn't want to go through that as well on top of everything else. Or she just completely just thinks that I wasn't trying at all, which I can say right now I was. I really, really was. Even though it may seem like, I even mentioned to her, like, it's not gonna happen just like that. And I thought she would understand that. And I'm pretty sure she does. But another part of me says that she just thinks that I wasn't trying at all. And maybe I wasn't trying as hard as I could have. But at that moment, like during that time, with everything else that I was going through and all the, home stress, school stress, work stress, especially, I really was trying my hardest. And I guess she just didn't see that, or she just didn't want to deal with it. So I could tell there was a lot more bitterness. She even started questioning my ambition, because although I do have intentions to become a therapist and or counselor in the future, I don't know how I'm going to do it specifically, or go about it specifically. I have an idea, but I don't have an absolute, like, this is what I'm going to do type of idea, I should. I acknowledge that I should, but I don't. And just because I should, but I don't necessarily see that as a bad or horrible thing. Everybody goes at their own pace when it comes to this shit. So she started questioning my ambition, my value in my own education. She would give me the cold shoulder every now and then, which is understandable. Again, like a lot of her reactions and her thought processes are understandable. But at the time, I would notice these, and it would hurt. But yeah. Now, fast forward through like most of the beginning of the school year, pretty much. Like, let's fast forward to October. Now, I believe it was during October or the month before, but I'm pretty sure October. We went to homecoming, and homecoming was probably the very last, like, great moment me and her have had together. We danced together, we had fun, we partied, we laughed. I got to know her cousin because she actually brought her cousin over, and it was fun. It was the most fun we had ever had, and it was the most fun I have ever had at any type of school dance so far, and I will always remember that day. Now, I say that's the last because it was either on, I said October 8th before, but it was either on October 8th or October 9th that she broke up with me. And this is when I started to go to my friend Destiny and also my closest friend Wyatt, because I told Destiny that, okay, it was the night before either of those 2 days. And this is when I started to go to my friend Wyatt and even Destiny a couple times. Because the night before the 8th or the 9th, I went to dance studio. When I waited for her to get out, it was like 8 or 9 or around there, p.m. And she came out. We, sat for a few minutes, and I brung up something that I guess it caused like a brief conflict, and I even noticed, before it was like too late, but I feel like some damage had already been done, and I believe right then and there is when she made her decision that that she was going to break up with me, because that moment right there, I forgot what I even brought up, or I don't know, but it was something, and it didn't sit well with her. So I no this is no I don't know, this was not the next day. This was like a couple days before Monday, I believe, like on Friday or sometime during the weekend. But sometime around there, I told Destiny that I was really afraid, because I can already sense something like this coming. Like, for the past few months or so, I could already sense that something bad was going to happen. And I told her that I was afraid that she might break up with me, da 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 da. And she told me to not worry about it, and just wait and see. And then I went to my friend Wyatt, and this is after the homecoming event that I went to at St. Pete High. So I went to 2 homecomings this year, which I'm happy about. But I was talking to him in the car. I told him my fear, and I told him that things haven't been looking the best for the past few or a couple months, like during that, time. And he told me that he kept it real with me. It didn't look good. So he told me to wait and see, but he wasn't really giving me the false hope of it, oh, don't worry about it, it's gonna be all right type of thing. Which I appreciated. It didn't feel good, but I appreciated. Thank you. But but yeah. And then, Monday came, or, I'm pretty sure it was Monday. Could have been a 3-day weekend, so it could have been Tuesday, but more than likely Monday. Went to school, met up with Kara, and she broke up with me. Now, after this, I was pretty fucked up. I was really, really, like, I was not well whatsoever. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't I couldn't even get out of my bed. Like, even if I would sleep and I would wake up, I would just lay there and stare at the ceiling for hours. It didn't feel good. I felt like I didn't keep my promise to her father. For a few months, I would just try to keep my distance as much as I can. Well, first things first. The first couple weeks, I tried my very hardest to just, power through it and still, be friends with her and, still stay associated with her, because we even told each other, like, if we broke up, or, more or less, if something happened, that I would still like to be a part of your life, or, still be friends with you. So I tried to do that, but this time, her, like, the bitterness, the cold shoulder action, and the complete ignorance was way worse than it was ever, like, during the relationship. So just the smartassery and smartassery, I'm not sure if that's a word, but I guess it is now. And the passive aggressiveness definitely increased as well. That was just leading me to think, okay, well, maybe it's gonna take time for her. And then one time, when, like, during lunch, when we were at our table, like, where everyone usually goes, our friends and all, like, during that lunch period, because we have two lunches here, or we have two lunches at Booker. So she said something that she meant to tell Big M, in a small voice, but I heard it. And what I heard was, well, first of all, Big M asked Kara, like, I don't know how they got there in the first place, but he asked, why did you even date him? Like, why did you date Travis? And she replied with, I felt obligated to. Now, I will give context, like the context that she gave me when I, confronted her about it to gain closure. But when I first heard that, I left the table. I couldn't handle it. My heart sank into my stomach. I really just wanted to cry right then and there. At that point, I felt a plethora of emotions. I felt angry. I felt sad. I felt betrayed. And it was like one of those, like, big emotional feelings that I really don't think I've ever felt before. I felt angry before. I've been angry at people. I've been sad before. I've cried my eyes out a lot. But this was different. And that's what really fucked me up. For, like, the next month, or 3. Again, like, that was the result of, or not the result, but that was the cause of me not being able to sleep, not being able to eat, or wanting to eat, not wanting to get out of bed when I had to, or whenever I woke up, if I did sleep. And, I started reaching out to Wyatt. I told him what I heard, and, you know, I have to thank him. Wyatt, I thank you for being there. Anybody else, either I just didn't think of anybody else, or nobody was a better choice other than you, you know. So I thank you for being there, and and for those of you who don't know, during this time, I contemplated, I actually contemplated whether I wanted to just end the pain or not. And I contemplated if it was worth it. What would I lose? What would I have to gain from it? Not nothing, like little to nothing really. But I was in a, like, mentally speaking, I was in a pretty dark place, and I just wasn't well. But yeah, it took literally 6 months now. It's been 6 months since October 8th, more or less. That's how long it took me to finally, not completely get over the breakup. Because if I completely got over, if I completely got over her, I wouldn't be feeling this heavy ass weight feeling, as if, my heart was an anvil and it just dropped all the way to my stomach every time I, saw her in person, or I laid eyes on her, or if she was fairly close to me, close being 2 to 10 feet away from me. Hell, I wouldn't damn near have a small panic attack every time I passed by her mom's car whenever I'd leave school. So that should give a pretty good idea of how I feel currently. Now, let me get into, the things that I had a problem with when it came to the relationship and her, and, explain why I think that I wasn't the only one who contributed here to, the eventual breakup. I personally stand by we both contributed, and that the relationship started off good, but towards the middle, all the way to the end, it looked bad. Kara can be, without trying often, but can be pretty condescending. I personally didn't like the fact that she would be condescending, and she wouldn't even, she wouldn't recognize it often, and I'd even have to bring it to her attention, and sometimes even then she would be in denial, or she would still not understand. See, the one thing that, I admit that I, need to work on is I can be pretty stubborn, a lot. And, especially when I really truly believe in my word, I'm one stubborn son of a bitch. So you got me, who is very stubborn and can be pretty passionate. Too passionate. Wow. I can speak. But then we have, his partner, who is also a very passionate person and is also condescending or can be condescending. That's not a good mix up. That is definitely not a good mix up, and a lot of our like associates slash friends in our friend group would recognize that. Hell, even if like there was like only two moments, but one in particular where Kara was lecturing me about something. I'm not gonna say what it was during lunch, and then somebody else butted in and kind of started siding with me, and she got upset. Now that's understandable, having multiple people against you like that at a time it's a lot of pressure, and it can be pretty frustrating because you're immediately going to be on the defense. But that was like an example, like one example of the relationship just not looking good, because it wasn't just like that person that was there. There was a couple other people that were there that noticed, even Big M, and Big M and another person who I will not name thought that the relationship was toxic because the situation that was happening with me having trouble adjusting fast enough to where I can keep my promises more and not being as stubborn, and her having short, because she's a very emotional person like me. She gets really passionate about stuff, and she will have like small spurts of outbursts, kind of like me, but in a different way, I guess. Um, so a lot of people already, looked at the relationship as it being a not healthy relationship, which is understandable now. I can see that. But obviously, I was in denial. I defended her on numerous occasions, trying to justify why she was feeling the way she was and why things were happening and that it will get better eventually. My naive ass didn't pay attention to anything else. Anyway, I didn't like the fact that she would be condescending every now and then, and that, condescending attitude of hers would grow as time went on in the relationship. As things started to kind of go downhill, is when it just started to get way worse. And it fucked with me. I would be like, what, why are you, what's happening? Like I wouldn't verbally express like, hey, why are you doing this? Or it was these little things here and there that it would just build up. It would build up my insecurity, my me being unsure of the situation or if I'm wrong or not. Like a lot of things just build up to me just not feeling right about something, like before the breakup. And that's what I'm trying to get at here, cuz the way she contributed to the breakup, more or less, is the things and the little things that she would do that would have me react or think or do things that essentially led you know led to the breakup. Now I'm not blaming her. I know it sounds like that oh no, it's because she did these things that I did this and that's why she did that. I'm not blaming her specifically. I'm just saying, if I knew how to communicate better, because we could all agree I need to learn how to use my words better. And if she would just, listen and also not compare me to people, then I'm pretty sure we would have lasted longer. Or at the very least, we wouldn't have ended on such a rough note. And that was another thing she would do. She she would compare me to people, whether it was people that were bad or good in her image. She would compare, and that would also, fuck with my self-confidence. She would compare me to, a couple of her exes, one of which, who he will not be named, was a fucking horrible person. And I wouldn't be surprised if he still was. But she would every now and then compare me to he who will not be named, and that would also fuck with me. That, oh god, like, there were some things that I did that, okay, understandable. Here's the thing though, here's some other advice. Whether if your past relationship was good or bad, for your own mental health, you should never compare. Like, it doesn't matter, okay? Especially whether, like, it doesn't matter how the current, relationship is looking either. You should usually never do that. Now, do we end up doing that anyway? Yes, we do. It's natural. But you should never look to do that, especially if you're trying to help your partner get better or help them realize, hey, maybe, like, maybe you shouldn't be doing this, this is bad, and this is my way of showing you that it's bad. It can be effective, but not if you do it a lot. And Kara did it a lot. It was unnecessary half the time. I mean, maybe she thought that it was completely necessary during the moment. It wasn't. Like, she was trying to get her point across by saying this and this and that, which would work every now and then, but again, not if you constantly do it. And she started to do it more and more as the relationship started crashing. And like I said, that would mess with my self-confidence even more, mentioning he who will not be named and comparing me to him. Yeah, I did not feel good about that every time she would do that. Now, that aside, like, all the things that I was, that I didn't like, I'm sure there's probably a few more stuff that I could mention, but I don't want this video to go on for too long. And it's probably already longer than I intend for it to be anyway. But yeah, go ahead and I confront her about, did you lie all that time? Did you, like, never actually have true feelings for me? She told me that due to her past experiences and, a whole bunch of other stuff that I cannot elaborate on, that when I told her that I liked her, she felt obligated to say she liked me back. Now, when she told me that, like, at first I'm like, okay, so you're telling me that you didn't even think to give it time to, like, think over or anything? It was just on the spot, yeah, I like you too. I'm not saying it's bullshit, however, that's how I felt when you said that to me. But if that's the case, and you are a teenager, right, close to being a legal adult, and you can't realize right then and there that you should just either say no or think it through, when you don't, because obviously, and you said this, that you didn't really feel the same way for me at that time. You felt obligated to say yes. So, again, if that's the case, then you yourself aren't ready for a relationship. Like, you're over here saying you're taking interest in somebody and you're contemplating whether to make a move on them or not. Like, you do realize that, the more than likely outcome of that will more or less be the same as ours. Hey, you know what? This is some more advice from from my experience, and I'm pretty sure Kara herself would be able to agree with this. If you date somebody out of obligation and there's like no romantic feelings legitimately, like something may be there, but it's questionable, and at that time you guys are just friends, it's 9 times out of 10, it's usually not gonna work out, all right? Statistically speaking, but I mean, my relationship with Kara is also an example of that. I thought that, I thought she legitimately loved me, like actually by definition loved me. She cared for me. She wanted to be my best friend. She wanted to be my, like, all of the above. And I was wrong, but I was led by, you know, her telling me that she actually felt the same way for me, even though she didn't. That is a problem. Okay, if you date somebody out of obligation, not only are you not being true to yourself, obviously you're not being true to them as well. And, like, you're gonna lead them on. They will, like, that's why I think this probably didn't affect her as much as it affected me emotionally. I actually gave a shit and, cared about her well-being and tried to be there as much as I can and tried to be myself but not be somebody else at the same time. I tried to better myself for her and for myself. I tried everything because I loved her. And, you know, she didn't feel the same way. And it sucks. Like, it really, really does suck. It still hurts to think about. I've just gotten over it enough to where if I simply think about it, I don't, automatically sob. But I'm carrying on a bit much again. Like the third or fourth time now. But she told me that. I felt a little better, but not really. And after that, I stopped associating myself with her because she clearly doesn't want to be friends with me anymore. She doesn't want to associate herself with me anymore. I can tell that much. Constantly giving me the cold shoulder, constantly ignoring me, still being condescending, having an attitude towards me. It just screams, get the fuck away from me. So I stopped going at that table overall, and I don't talk to her anymore. Now, throughout that time, we're going to fast forward, but throughout that time after that, again, Wyatt was there for me, and, he was really the only person I could really go to about it. So, again, thank you. And he helped me out. Like, he helped me get through a lot of it. Now, fast forward, say, like 2 or 3 months ago, when I uploaded my first video having to do with, me and Kara's relationship. She saw that video. First of all, in reference to what you essentially asked, it doesn't matter if I have your permission or not, okay? As long as I'm not revealing too much detail about like, anything personal that went on with us or went on with you, any personal info, and as long as I don't commit anything defamation worthy. That term is mainly used for, like, business and celebrity figures, but you get my point here. Like, specifically in the form of slander, I'm not saying anything that is intentionally trying to bring down your image and or reputation. I am telling a story about my life and what I experienced. I'm allowed to say anything at that point as long as I don't include literally all that other stuff that I just listed. So, same goes for you. You could literally do the same thing that I'm doing if you wanted to. All right? And also, my truth, like, okay, because you say that I went behind your back and I tried to mask it. Okay, I don't know how you came up with that. That I was trying to like cover up my tracks or whatever. But I wasn't. Also, you want to speak to me about going behind your back. However, you talked shit about me constantly at lunch, from what I've heard from somebody gossiping, saying that it was all my fault, again, from the same person that told me the first thing, who I will not name, but it's you see the irony in that? You technically went behind my back, ruining my image, telling people that it was all my fault that the relationship ended, more or less. Does that not count as somebody going behind your back? Right. So, with this in mind, I'm allowed to make these videos whether I have your permission or not. So, I'm not even associated with you anymore. I don't talk to you. I don't I don't see you in person anymore. So it doesn't fucking matter. All right? Like it's done. We're done. Like nothing is going to happen from this. All right? Like half the people, or probably a little bit more than that, who are watching this don't know who the fuck you are. I already thought this through. I thought this through way before I even, started, making the first video having to do with us. So calm the fuck down. And also another thing that I forgot to, mention is that I have a feeling either she or other people who are in support of her might go into this and watch this whole, like, fully and say that I'm lying for, like, a lot of it or half of it or whatever. First of all, my interpretation of the truth can be vastly different from hers or / yours. I hope you realize that. So she thinks that, it was all my fault. That's okay. That's her opinion. That's how she saw it. That's how she experienced it. I think that we both contributed, and generally it all falls down to we were not a perfect match. Maybe for a little bit, if we figured something out, maybe we would have lasted, or again, we wouldn't have, ended on such a sour note. But we didn't. We didn't work out. We weren't right for each other. That's how I see it, personally. And I, for the most part, elaborated why I feel so. It was kind of all over the place, but I'm going to try to edit it down to where it's more understandable. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. If I missed anything else that I wanted to say, or that I feel like I need to say, I may just edit it in the video, just put the text. But other than that, yeah, that was the story time, and I'm now, I'm now acknowledging that this is my first story time in a long time where I don't have anything going on in the background, gameplay, just a chill picture with like some active movement in the background. It's just me, and I thought it would be appropriate for this video. So I hope you guys learned something, at least. And for those who don't know, like for those who know me but don't entirely understand the situation, well, there you go. But yeah, this video will most likely be uploaded after my second Pizza Hut video. If not, it will probably be uploaded before. So either or. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys